Humanism, Trans-Humanism, and Post-Humanism. We want to envision not just the meaning of the words humanism, transhumanism, and post-humanism. We want to understand the philosophy which characterizes their differences. We must understand humanism if we are going to understand trans and post-humanism. Yet, oddly enough, humanism is the most complicated of the three terms. This is because there is more than one way to understand humanism. So what are those ways? There are three ways to understand humanism. Humanism as it relates to art, humanism as it relates to Plato and Aristotle, and humanism as it relates to evolution and Marxism. This downward trajectory from absolute to nihilistic is a pattern that is found and that can be applied all throughout the history of traditional philosophy. So what does humanism mean in light of this pattern? 1. It means that humanism can refer to a shift from a theocentric point of view to an anthropocentric point of view. This refers to the worldview that results when anthropoi, or humans, are taken as the origin of meaning and that to which we devote our attention. The history of Western art characterizes Italian Renaissance art as humanistic because at the time art became more focused on humans than on God. Second, the human in humanism refers to anthropos. In this case, anthropos or human, man or mankind, is understood as referring to a kind of species. A matter-form composite means a certain kind of material and a certain kind of form, and form here means a pattern that can be identified in terms of what it is not. For example, look at the difference between the human and the brick wall. The two are pretty different. Look at the difference between a human and an actual cat. The two are pretty different. This path of characterization through negation can be extended until enough negations have been identified to determine the unique definition of the kind of form that repeatedly appears in the matter-form composite called human. When this is understood absolutely, then it is believed that too much change to the matter-form composite, whether it be a material or a formal change, would make the changed matter-form composite no longer human. To think of the matter-form composite as relative would be to understand human as referring to a matter-form composite that is transformable beyond whatever may appear to be the limits of its present transformation. Thus, as we will see, transhumanism fits well with the relative understandings of humanism. Finally, or third, to think of human as relative in the evolutionist Marxist sense is not to think of the matter-form composite as relative, like we just did, but rather to think of the term human as relative. This point of view is understood as even more relative than the relative point of view regarding matter-form composite, because this point of view sees human as just a transitional understanding of the forever evolving thing that we just happen to call human in the present stage of our evolution. To take such a strong relativistic stance regarding natural categories, or, put another way, to take this relative point of view regarding the very idea of human, is to treat the current evolutionary stage of matter-form composites and their definitions as so fleeting, transitional, and impermanent as to believe the term human actually refers to no thing or to nothing. Thus, this point of view constitutes the nihilistic point of view regarding humanism. Altogether, then, there are 3 ways to be a humanist, 2 ways to be a transhumanist, and 2 ways to be a post-humanist. We already learned how humanism can be understood as absolute, relative, or nihilistic. So what about transhumanism? Transhumanists can't think of humanism as nihilistic, or they would immediately, and logically speaking necessarily, occupy the same philosophical position as post-humanists. Thus, when transhumanism understands humanism as absolute, it believes it can give the appearance of transforming the human, but it cannot change the ontological relation between God and human. It can change the way it relates to God in appearance only. When the transhumanist understands humanism as relative, then it believes that it can make changes to the matter or the form, or both the matter and form, in the matter-form composite understood as human, but only within a range of transformation. In other words, the transhumanist who treats humanism as relative still believes that there is a point at which transformation would make us into something other than human, or rather something post-human. For evolutionarily speaking, it could be said that the reaching of post-humanity means the extinction of the human species, the extinction or the end of the matter-form composite we call human. Finally, post-humanism refers to the extreme points of view from which either human is understood as referring to a relative composition, or human is understood as a term that has no inherent meaning, a term which doesn't actually refer to anything, which is why it is inherently a post-humanist position. In other words, on the one hand, post-humanists may believe that we are in a transhumanist phase of the matter-form composites that we are, so long as they also believe we will eventually go completely beyond or somehow outside of the evolutionary phase we call human. On the other hand, post-humanists may deny transhumanism by suggesting that human is a historically relative term that we shouldn't even be using anymore. This is to be post-human in the nihilistic extreme sense that there really is no such thing, and even that there never was such a thing as a human. This is perhaps easiest to see when you take a Marxist point of view and consider how throughout history there have been cultures that did not consider slaves to be fully human. As the Marxist historical materialist argument goes, application of the term human has always depended on division of labor and modes of production. Thus, as society continues to transition from pre-modern to post-modern, it, thereby makes sense to some Marxists that merging with a machine is simply the next material phase of history. Transhumanism and posthumanism are, from such a point of view, not thought of in terms of extinction, but rather a change to be celebrated, a revolution, an ontological revolution.
Presenting Hypershell 1 horsepower, the embodiment of freedom, strength, and limitless possibilities. In a world where exhaustion and limitations are the norm, Hypershell emerges as a beacon of hope, promising to redefine your boundaries. It's not just an exoskeleton, it's your ticket to a life unrestrained. Picture this: you effortlessly conquer steep mountains, dash at 13 miles per hour, tackle a 60-degree slope, and effortlessly carry 66 pounds, all while feeling as light as air. Hypershell's Omega system is the key, with its central motors and 8 passive joints reducing weight and size by half, equipping you with the power of 1 horsepower. Whether you're exploring museums, theme parks, or embarking on a rugged trek, Hypershell stands by your side, banishing sore legs and fatigue. This marvel adapts to 9 sports modes, fits various body sizes, offers a 21-mile battery range, and starts at just $599, all backed by a 1-year warranty. With Hypershell, the world becomes your playground, and the limits of what you can achieve are redefined. Dare to dream, dare to push the boundaries. Hypershell 1 horsepower is here to make it happen. The Sarcos Guardian XO, hailed as the second best among exoskeletons, is a marvel of human-machine collaboration. In a world that constantly demands more from its workforce, the Guardian XO emerges as a beacon of hope. The Guardian XO is not just a machine, it's a guardian angel for workers in physically demanding industries. It multiplies an operator's strength up to 20 times and adapts to gravity and inertia, ensuring a smooth lifting experience. At a starting price of $95,000, it's an investment in the future of work. Hyundai Motor Group's Vex, the #1 best exoskeleton, Vex, a wearable robot, is a testament to Hyundai's commitment to the well-being of its industrial workers, underlining their shared vision of progress for humanity. It's a symbol of Hyundai's dedication to humanity's progress and well-being.
Something very cool that my producers won't let me announce. So I can fully understand why some people might look around and go, "You call this progress, do you? And you say you want to do more of it?"
But in 2012, scientists figured out how to hijack CRISPR to target not just viral DNA, but any DNA in almost any organism. With the right tools, this viral immune system becomes a precise gene editing tool, which can alter DNA and change specific genes almost as easily as fixing a typo.
Thanks to innovation in IVF and gene editing technology, parents have the chance of having babies of their dreams. This technology even allows parents to choose as far as the baby's hair and eye colors, level of intelligence. A designer baby is an embryo that has been genetically modified for the sake of producing a child with some particular traits. Unfavorable characteristics or bad traits like genetic diseases may be removed, and in most cases, desirable traits like enhanced intelligence and strength are added. For many, this may seem like a story from a science fiction movie. However, designer babies are becoming a reality. There are various technologies involved in the creation of a gene-modified baby. They are pre-implantation genetic testing, TALENs, and CRISPR.
So as you can see from the Trans-Humanism Trailers, that there are 4 main ways transhumanism is accomplished: robotically, through technology; physically, through surgery; chemically, through pharmaceuticals. This, of course, includes hormones; and genetically, through genetic alteration, which includes the practice of producing designer babies. The comment about CRISPR being able to change gene sequences as simply as changing a typo, though the CRISPR technology is technically part of Trans-Humanism, it certainly seems to me as though it's a harbinger of Post-Humanism. Special thanks to those channels for the fair use of those excerpts as a trailer for Trans-Humanism. As we saw with the excerpt from Philosophy Tube, it is possible to understand transgenderism as a part of Trans-Humanism. It might suggest that we are already somewhere in the transhumanist phase of the trajectory downward through modernity. This trajectory ends, of course, with post-humanism. Some might say, beyond simply being on the horizon, the post-human condition is already somewhat upon us. The key to understanding transhumanism and post-humanism is understanding the different points of view from which to understand humanism.